Good Wednesday evening, listeners, and welcome to another edition of Conversations of a Sister here on my YouTube channel. I thank you all of my listeners and those who follow me and follow my blog for all of your emails and all of your reach outs. Let me mute my phone because I don't want to start getting messages. For those of you who follow me and who have been following the show for quite some time and noticed that I have been absent for a couple of weeks, I thank you for those follow ups, those emails, those contacts. So here we are back on the air, and it is after the election of 2024. Everyone, all of the emails that I have been receiving, people have been reaching out to me because they wanted my intake, my input. They wanted to hear what I had to say with regards to the election. I found that quite funny because I have been very vocal about it prior. If you have been listening, I called it from day one. First of all, I said that Joe Biden should step aside because I felt like he didn't have the strength or the wherewithal to take on Donald Trump. He appeared weak and at times senile, and that debate that he had, it just told it all. What I thought was that he was going to choose as his successor a man, because I felt like this election, this 2024 election, was too serious to put the VP on the forefront. And, people are like, oh, he just couldn't look over her. She is, after all, the vice president of the United States. And this is something that, he should consider. But I think that just like, I don't know, Democrats had an honest conversation with Joe Biden about stepping down, I think that they should have had an honest conversation about his choice in Kamala Harris. And the reason why I say that is because when I called it out on my social media page, I was attacked. People was like, "Oh my God, don't say that. Oh my God, how dare you say that? Oh my God, don't say that. Oh, you're being so negative." No, I was not being negative. I was being realistic. That's what I was being. We live in the United States of America, and I don't think that we've come far enough to elect a woman president. That was proof with Hillary Clinton. And I think that to put a black woman on top of that, black, Indian, whatever, against Donald Trump was a bad mistake. And I felt like the stakes were too high to gamble on Kamala Harris. But, I was hearing, you know, uh, America is looking to do something new. And, she's the first female black woman to run for president. And, oh, the young people are going to get out and rally and they're going to vote. And, oh, is this, is that. So they propped up Kamala Harris to run on behalf of the Democrats. And I think that Kamala lost because her focus was all wrong. And I think that Bernie Sanders, who came out and said that Democrats lost their touch with the average everyday voter, I agree with him 100%. Because Kamala Harris turned her campaign into a Donald Trump bash. She talked about what Donald Trump's plans were. She talked about Project 2025. She talked about how he was going to be a dictator. She talked about his 34 felony convictions. She talked about how he's not good to be in the White House. She talked about the January 6th insurrection. She talked about all of the things as to why he should not be president and why he is not fit, but she failed to talk about the administration that she was tied to. And I think the one thing that came back and bit her in the ass was the fact that she never handled the border. She never went to the border until she was actually the candidate for the Democrats. Then she went to the border. She didn't rally around the border when Biden announced that he was going to have her handle the border. She never went to the border. So I think that that's what bit her in the ass. I'm not going to say entirely. That's just one of the things. The second things that the American people were concerned about was inflation, uh, groceries, gas, this inflation. And while inflation has gotten better and inflation is, lowered and on the mend, the biggest issue is immigration. The biggest issue was immigration. Because at the end of the day, we live in a racist country, a country who has forgotten that we're all immigrants. And there are some immigrants here that have been here for a very long time. They have their visas or their temporary citizenships, and they're hardworking individuals. And then you have those immigrants who come here and commit a crime, as that one immigrant did when he killed the young lady that was out for a jog. And I think that he was sentenced today to life in prison. So now look, he was sentenced to life in prison here in the United States because he killed an American citizen. So now our tax dollars is going to pay to keep him locked up. And I don't think that's fair. I think that another gripe that the American people had was that the Biden administration was sending thousands and thousands of dollars. I shouldn't say thousand, I should say billions and trillions of dollars to Ukraine, while you had homeless people here in the United States that were neglected. Money was being given to immigrants when you have people here who need those same funds. So these were the biggest gripes of the American people, and these were the issues that Kamala Harris, excuse me, failed to address. So I think that her aim and her focus was all wrong. She talked about abortion rights because there are abortion bans in different states, but the American people were not concerned with that. The everyday American was concerned about inflation. I'm one of them. I was concerned about inflation. I was annoyed every time there was a town hall or there was some type of interview, and these were things that she was not addressing. And it was the elephant in the room. And she was not addressing that. So I think that on top of the fact that she was a woman, she was a Black woman with all of the issues that were not addressed, with all of the issues that we're facing as Americans, they fell on deaf ears. She did not she did not come out strong on her position. And she could have even spoke about how the economy is on the mend. And she could have defended the fact that we have nothing to do with inflation. Inflation starts, and she could have went into how it started, and then she could have came up with how it was going to end. She should have addressed the fact that she wasn't voted in the midterm, and she should have stated why. And yes, Joe Biden should have even dropped out sooner. I think that the Democrats dropped the ball on this one. And I think that the part that really pisses me off, because it did piss me off, was the fact that I felt like the election was taken for granted. You had so much at stake and so much on the line that you took it for granted. You took it for granted that the American people were concerned about abortion and everything that Donald Trump was going to do, but you didn't address the elephant in the room. And the elephant in the room was inflation. The elephant in the room was people talking about their grocery bills, interest rates, uh, loans, home loans. I mean, it was great what she was going to do for first time home buyers, but that was just a drop in the bucket. There were so many other issues to speak on, and she failed to use that moment. She failed to take that moment. And I think that people felt as though, with a woman at the helm as president of the United States, that the United States would look weak. And some voters even stated that the reason why they didn't vote for her is because they didn't feel safe. They didn't feel like we would be safe under a Harris administration because they feel like we're not safe under a Biden administration. You have the war in Ukraine, between Russia and Ukraine. You have the Gaza and the Israel conflict. So you have all of these things going on, and the American people didn't trust that a woman can handle it. And they felt like, on top of that, she was a cackling woman because she laughed a lot, she smiled a lot, and she appeared to be happy. People bug me out because I feel like, as a black woman, as a sister, we can't win. Now, if her lips was always poked out and she never smiled and she was always serious and she was quick with her answers, they would have labeled her a bitch. But because she laughed and she cackled, they labeled her a cackler. Oh, who want to listen or hear this cackling heifer for the next 4 years? But who wants to be embroiled in the drama of a Trump administration for the next 4 years? He hasn't even been sworn in, and it's already a circus. He hasn't even been sworn in, and it's already a mess. He hasn't been sworn in, and different states are already up in arms about how they are going to protect their people from whatever it is that a Donald Trump administration is going to bring, that is going to bring possible harm to a people. I haven't seen a commercial for ACLU in ages. And all of a sudden, you have all of these groups, all of these organizations that represent African American people and people of color popping up on the television with commercials. If you've been racially discriminated against or for racial discrimination, it's like everybody is gearing up for a Trump administration for the next 4 years. So now this is what we as the American people are subject to. We are subject to the drama and the chaos that is going to ensue for the next 4 years under Donald Trump. But guess what? The American people didn't care. This is what they wanted. It was so bad under Biden that they had to re-elect a convicted felon, one who brought on an insurrection at the Capitol, one who has grand plans for democracy as we know it, one who wants to get rid of the Department of Education, which funds so many programs in public schools and colleges, one who wants to fumble and get rid of Social Security. I see a lot of marches in the future. I see a lot of civil unrest for the next 4 years because a Donald Trump administration means chaos, it means drama. I mean, look at his cabinet picks so far. I'm waiting for them to announce that Bozo the Clown is going to head HUD. I'm waiting for them to announce, I don't know, the Joker that is going to run another part of his administration. Every day is somebody new. He's even offered a position to Dr. Oz. And we all know who Dr. Oz is. RFK is going to be over health. These people have no experience whatsoever. But I'm told that he said that he likes the ignorant, that he loves the ignorant and the uneducated. And what about this bromance that he has with Elon Musk? It doesn't look normal to me that we have a president elect who's running around with a bestie, meeting with foreign leaders and sending things to the moon to test it out as if they're on play dates. For me, this is not normal. All of a sudden now he and Elon Musk are joined at the hip, and they're calling Elon Musk the first lady. That's what they're calling him because he's everywhere Donald Trump is. I'm wondering, does he have a room at Mar-a-Lago? I'm wondering if him and Trump are sharing twin beds in the bedroom. That's how close he's become to Elon Musk. I don't think it's normal. God forbid Joe Biden had a best friend that he was hanging out with or hanging around. Can you imagine what the media would be saying? So, this bromance that Trump has with Elon Musk, for me, it's just not normal. And I'm expecting it to blow up sooner than later because all of his administrations do. We saw what happened the last time. And this time, he's more adamant about his agenda. But what bugs me out is that no one is saying anything. Everyone is quiet. If Donald Trump was such a threat to democracy, where is the uproar? You have people on social media saying that they always thought that it was all about the hype, that it really wasn't what it was, and that they tried to trick them when it concerned Donald Trump, but it didn't work. I guess time will tell and we will see. But it's one thing that I think that is very important that, you know, the American people should do, especially those who, voted for Donald Trump and don't believe some of the things that, you know, that's been said that he's going to do. I think that a clear indication is the fact that he has not appointed not one African American to his cabinet. I was kind of shocked by that because there was some black men who came out on his behalf. I mean, after all, you had Tim Scott who actually declared his love for Donald Trump when he felt like Donald Trump was going to select him as a VP, when he thought he'd be in the running, for the VP. But he hasn't chosen Tim Scott for anything. And Tim Scott basically kissed his ass. But he hasn't chosen him. He hasn't chosen him to be a part of his administration. And a couple of other Republican African Americans. I think they're either senators or congressmen. he hasn't chosen them either. The only thing that I've heard or saw on social media was a statement from Ben Carson saying that he's going to meet with Trump and they are going to discuss some things for the future. And I think that all politicians do what they need to do to try and get your vote. All politicians make promises for what they're going to do to try and get your vote. When Donald Trump stood before Latinos, he praised and talked about his love for Latinos. But yet we all heard the joke about Puerto Rico being a floating island of garbage. We saw that association, but this is what he said and this is what he does. When he's in front of African American people, he acknowledges the fact that we built this country. You know, you built this country. He gives African Americans credit for that when he's in front of a crowd of African Americans. When he's in front of a crowd of I think it was Arabs, with what's going on in Gaza, he made promises that it was going to end in their favor. But then once he got elected, he said something different to Netanyahu. So I think that people are going to find out that a lot of things that was said was out of convenience. And then it'll be buyer's remorse because you'll see exactly what the full plan is. So for the last past couple of weeks, I have been looking, reading, and reflecting on the election of 2024. And it brings me great wonder for 2025. And I swear to beans, if I didn't have so many attachments, I would actually move out of this country. I would live abroad simply because I do not look forward to 4 years under a Trump administration. But I think I'm going to start doing what I see people saying that they're going to do. Watch less news, which is kind of hard for me because, I am news. I'm a blogger. I'm informed whether I want to be or not. You have no idea the amount of emails that I receive and the articles that I receive and the videos that I receive and just the information that I receive because people want me to address it on whatever platform that I can. So it's kind of hard to ignore, things that are going on around you. But if I could, I would flee this country. So for 2025, I don't know. I'm going to have to come up with another approach. I don't know what that approach will be because I am going to always maintain my my duty, my obligation to keep you informed because I think that people need to be informed. And I think that people need to be reminded of the decisions that they make and the consequences that are behind those decisions. And unfortunately, for those of us who did not make that choice, we will be living amongst it as well. I'm seeing a lot of Black women say they are no longer participating because they knew the assignment, they did the assignment, and their assignment is done. I think that to an extent, I feel the same way. But I think that we have to pray for restoration. We have to be restored. We have to be ready and prepared for what the next 4 years will bring because we don't know. but we have to pray for restoration. And we cannot, at the end of the day, we cannot put our faith in man because our faith is not supposed to be in man. And I have to tell myself that at times when I'm giving myself my own pep talk. I just wonder sometimes why God allow the wicked to prosper. And I think that that's a scripture. Why God allows the wicked to prosper. Hmm, that might be our next conversation. And is the wicked really prospering? We don't know because to everything there is a season and a time and a place under the sun. So, what may look like prosperity may not really be prosperity. And what may look like a win may not really be a win. And what may look and feel like a defeat may not necessarily be a defeat. It depends on what side you decide that you are going to be on. Because I believe that right, regardless of what it looks like, is going to win every time. It's just a matter of the season in which these things, just like the election, will come to pass. So that's my thought. And those are my 2 cents. And I think that if there is any hope and if we've learned anything, I think that we should think about doing things differently because at the end of the day, we all have a choice to make. And that choice can be to not do the same things over again. So we have a choice to make, and our choices will herald consequences. And that's something that we have to think about. So, in the next 4 years, our faith is not in Donald Trump. Our faith is not in man. Our faith is not in his wacky clown car of an administration. We're going to put our faith in God because that is who is the ultimate ruler and the ultimate king. I thank you for tuning in. For those who tuned in, have a great night, and I'll see you on our next conversation.